And finally, we want to take a look at some other types of commercial arbitration. The first is called baseball arbitration. If you follow baseball, you're probably familiar with it. That's where it came from. It can also be called final offer arbitration. And this is pretty simple. Each side exchanges and submits to an arbitrator or panel of arbitrators its final offer on a monetary amount in dispute. After the parties make presentations in support, the arbitrator is limited to award only one offer or the other. The arbitrator has no flexibility to issue an award other than what the parties' final offers are. There may be some people who interpret this slightly differently, but this is the general understanding of it. The next type of arbitration is called high-low or bracketed arbitration. At the outset of the case, parties agree upon a range representing the highest offer and the lowest offer from among their claims. The parties then proceed through the arbitration process. If the arbitrator's final award falls within that range, then the arbitrator's award is what is paid. But if the final award is outside of those parameters, then the parties use the high and low to establish the minimum or maximum of what they shall pay. One point of note here is that there are two different ways to handle this. Sometimes the arbitrator goes into the process knowing that this is a high-low, but perhaps not knowing the specific ranges. Sometimes the arbitrator is completely unaware that it's a high-low. These are things that parties need to decide in advance and include in their arbitration agreement, but then have an arbitration agreement that does not include those details to give to the arbitrator if they have chosen that sort of process. And finally, there is non-binding arbitration, also known as advisory arbitration. This is very similar to the goals of a mini-trial. An advisory arbitration provides a formal and structured hearing process, but instead, where a mini-trial, there are usually parties making abbreviated presentations of their best evidence. In an advisory arbitration, there may not be such limitations. The difference between this and standard arbitration is just that instead of the award being binding upon the parties, it's a recommendation or something the parties can use to further their negotiations. Now, obviously, if the parties agree that they like this award, they can accept it. Perhaps they can have it converted into a final award with the arbitrator, or they could file it for confirmation, but it could also just be an agreement which incorporates the arbitrator's award. It primarily is a process used to streamline claims and provide further evaluation for negotiations, though, and it is rarely seen in the construction world. If you want to learn more about non-binding or advisory arbitration, here's a link to a very good article by an arbitrator who has done research on this subject. And that concludes these overview lectures on the arbitration process. Your understanding should be supplemented by this week's reading and other resources. If you have any questions on the content of these lectures, please reach out to me so we can address them, and if need be, take them up either on the discussion board or in some other format to share them with a class. Thank you.